Welcome back, everyone, to the Human Roll EP3. We are now on to EWA, Earned Wage Access, as we mentioned in our last episode. So thank you for everyone, again, who watched, liked, shared, commented, all that good stuff. We really appreciate the support. So this month, as we talk through EWA, some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not. It is a earned wage access platform system. There's actually many different companies that are producing this, but it's for employers that allow employees to take their pay early. So it's not a convoluted process on the back end because most of these companies already have things configured, already have their internal partnerships with the larger HCM systems. But essentially, as you're working day to day, and say you're on a biweekly pay frequency and you get paid on a Friday, but come back Tuesday or Wednesday, you need extra money to pay a bill. You can actually download the application, whichever company that offers EWA that your company has signed up for. You can download that app. Register yourself, link your bank account to the system, and it will automatically show you how much money you can pull early. So there are some mechanisms with these platforms that will prevent you from taking more than like 50% of your net pay or 60% of your net pay. Some systems now allow 100% of your net pay. And then from there, you can take funds early. Some there's a cost, some there's not a cost, just depending on how quickly you need the money. But we are going to take more of a deep dive into this. We also have a very special guest with us that we will also use her insight. Her name is Tara McMillan. She's a senior partner on the Daily Pay side, which is one of the largest platforms that offer EWA services for many, many companies, and will be providing us some great insight. So with that being said, we will get started on just, going through the details. If you do know about it, we know that there's concerns around laws. There's also concerns around how much more work it causes for your payroll person, your HR person. Concerns around, is it a loan? Concerns around, from HR wanting to protect employees from overspending their money, all of that shebang. And so we want to make sure we provide you all insight from every end of the spectrum. So Chris, I will let you, take it from here and, go through what we've kind of researched on our end on what specifically EWA is, and then we'll kind of get into more of like the laws as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tiana. And just to start off, I think a lot of people are familiar with this. And I was just looking at a statistic a little earlier from Payroll Org that said 34% of employees are interested and would like to see their employer offer this as a benefit. And they said that's up from around 12 or 13% last year. This is something that's just climbing in popularity. And EWA, it's been offered for more than a decade. And there are several companies working with employers to be able to offer workers access, as Tiana mentioned, to get the wages when they earn them. In doing some of our research, we noticed that not all payroll professionals, however, are on the same page regarding this benefit. I noticed at some payroll conferences I attended where some are very into it, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the benefits for employees, and some are a little more cautious, maybe on the processing side and on the employer side. And also the U.S. Department of Treasury has some recommendations on how employers offering EWA as an option should run payroll for compliance purposes. Now, this is not a law at the moment, but some states have also hopped in and started to legislate themselves, which includes, I believe, California, I think Missouri and Nevada, and some other states have started to legislate. And I saw another interesting article that was talking about this from a large employer point of view as a little bit of a pain point. We've got these multi-state employers, McDonald's, Amazon, and Target. They have an EWA option for employees to attract to new talent and to also use it for employee retention. And where this could be a headache is these are different laws. They're not all the same. So you're going to have to take that into account. Arrangements do vary, as Tiana mentioned, but generally employees, they use mobile applications to access accrued wages before the end of their regular pay cycle, as she mentioned. And the amounts are transferred to a bank, a prepaid debit card, a payroll card, and so forth. And so I think, in sort of setting that up, maybe the first point to talk about is is from the employee point of view and some benefits. So I know Tiana has a good amount of experience and some background in this. So I was wondering if you might want to chat a little bit about some of the employee benefits and your experience with EWN.
Yes, absolutely. And key factor that you also mentioned, it can help recruiting. So as we, get into more of the conversation that happened with Tara McMillan, that was also another key factor. So along with, supporting employee retention that we talked about, last month, it does help with the recruiting efforts. And because if you think about it, you're no longer necessarily needing to put something on a credit card and accrue interest or get another loan or just say, hey, look, you can't pay on a Tuesday. So you're just going to have to wait until your paycheck hits on a Friday and receive, a late fee. Right. And so essentially, if you pull, at least from like the One Daily Pay platform, if you go next day to pull your funds and don't want it to be deposited until the next day, there is no longer a cost associated with that. But if you do same day, there's about a $3 or $4 charge. So just keep in mind, there are different platforms for EWA, many different platforms for earned wage access. I would say daily pay, I think tap check, immediate pay active. There's many other. Those are just a few that have popped in my mind. And I've talked to many of them at different conferences that I've attended. They all have their different process. So if your company is currently not utilizing this, I would suggest for you to put some feelers out there for at least a couple of them just to get a rundown, because there are some systems that it does not affect your deductions. It's just a direct deposit code that is set up. There's not like a deduction file that your payroll person has to add in. The direct deposit codes are already set up properly. And so when your payroll person is processing payroll, there is no interference with that. However, there are some other companies outside of Daily Pay where there could be some interference with reconciliation from that end. So I just want to, point that out that there's, different ways of going about things when you're utilizing EWA. But from an employee perspective, this is really a huge deal from the benefits side of the house. Okay, and then with that being said, let's go ahead and intro Tara McMillan in now. So we're going to go ahead and get her insight on at least like what her vision of EWA is, and that way, she's an expert in her field, so she has really good insight. So we'll let Tara take it away. So we have our special guest in the house, Tara McMillan. She is a senior partner manager at Daily Pay. So as you know, the episode is about EWA, short for Earned Wage Access, which is a really great added benefit for companies. And it really is beneficial for employees. So as we talk about this, this topic and this added benefit for all companies, we wanted to bring her on board. Tara is the guru of all things, sales, HCM in general, but she is a huge advocate for Daily Pay. I myself have used it in, prior companies and have supported our clients who have also utilized it within their companies. And it really is a great benefit for your employees. So we wanted to have an expert here to really show you all and speak on just the great benefits that Daily Pay can bring along with EWA. And on top of that, go through maybe some of like the concerns, right? We understand you guys have some certain concerns with that, but along with those concerns are always a positive. And so as you're thinking, kind of overthinking at times we do in the payroll world and worried about your employees that you're supposed to be taking care of from the HR stance. So how those risks can actually turn into pros for companies and for your employees. And so with that being said, we'll let Tara get started. So Tara, great. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. And I think we want to just start off. I mean, if you want to do, a brief intro of yourself, Tara, please do. And then I think really just start with the basics. So what would you would say would be, the meaning of EWA?
Yeah. So Tiana, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this. A lot of people know I've been involved in HCM. I've been involved in EWA now for a while. And, I find that earned wage access or on-demand pay is it's really a new thing, even though it's been around since 2015. But it's one of those things where we're trying to change the way people think about their pay and change the way of payroll even, without changing payroll, if that makes sense. What earned wage access or on-demand pay really is it's a way for employees to have access to their earned wages throughout the pay period without going to a traditional loan, right? So it's not a loan, it's not asking for an advance. It's having access to that money that they've already worked really hard for, and they deserve. They deserve access for it. So, payday loans, overdraft fees, they've been a financial plague on the underserved communities for way too long. And what we're trying to do, especially here at Daily Pay, is we're trying to disrupt the predatory industries with an innovative product that allows workers to access, again, earned wages, their earned pay, before they have to wait those 2 weeks or that week or that semi-monthly for payday. And it's really so they can have a better understanding of what their finances are, what they're getting paid, but more importantly, pay the bills on time. So they don't get those overdraft fees. They don't get billed extra because they had to wait for payday to pay something off. So that's really, kind of the reasoning behind earned wage access on demand pay. How it works, the back end side, it's really simple. For the employee, it's basically in the daily pay world, they go on an app, they sign up, they immediately, if they've worked a shift or two, they immediately have access. We'll talk about the pros and cons in a minute, but how great is that? Like, how many of the companies out there have somebody start one day and they don't show up the next? You know?
Yeah.
And their reasoning is, sorry, I didn't have gas money. Oh, I couldn't get money to get on the bus. Oh, it is what it is. Well, now we're hearing from, HR managers from companies saying, hey, this was life changing for some of our employees. They went on the app the first day, we signed them up through the onboarding process. They had access. They could see the next day they had access to money. They could get here. They could get on that bus. They could get in their car and drive here. So most importantly, Daily Pay is going to allow for 100% of their net. So, it's not 50% here, 50% there. We're going to give them everything. There's no transfer if they need it next day. There is a small fee. It's $3.49 if they need it right now. So that's basically an ATM fee. If they're going to the ATM, they're paying the same fee. Everything's done electronically these days. Why not allow for access for your pay electronically these days?
Yes, well said. Bravo, bravo, Sarah. So no, that's a great point. And look, we've all been there, right? You don't get paid on until Friday, and it's a Tuesday or Wednesday, and that bill is due on a Wednesday or Thursday. You also are factoring in, lunch, especially if you're going to the office, what Tara mentioned, gas, right? And so if you know your bill date ahead of time, the due date of your bill ahead of time, you can plan that next day, right? So that way you don't
Mhm.
get hit with any added fees. As Tara mentioned, outside of like a loan where you could have on added interest, right? If you don't pay. And then, getting an extra loan also hits, employees' credits. This is nothing like that, right? You don't go through a credit check. It's literally just an app that you enroll for, or the website you go in and you enroll for. So just so everyone is aware, you do have to make sure your company is signed up for daily pay. So if they are not, please, maybe knock on your payroll HR person's door and get them,
Yes.
to look into this. Contact Tara McMillan. We'll make sure we provide her contact information here too. So that way, if if a need comes about, your company does have to have that connector on the back end, but there's not a cost either for your company, right? So it's not like the
Correct.
company is being billed for anything of that nature. It's a free cost for your company. And as long as you're doing next day, it's a free cost. And if you're doing same day, if you're in a pickle, what's the pros and cons, right? You either pay and bill late, you get some fees. I mean, you might as well pay, the $3, $4 and not have to worry about it and be, less stressed versus getting hit with a late fee or having something, ding against your credit. So there are added benefits. But once your company is signed up and launches this and you register, the system handles itself. It connects automatically on the back end on the system. And that way on payday, your check goes through to your account as normal, and the daily pay system on the back end will take the funds that you owe them. And then that's it. You don't have to worry about it. It's really not a headache at all. I've used it in past companies. It has literally been a shining star. that has really just been the icing on the cake, especially as we approach the holiday time. So, I would say definitely use it responsibly. But, for the holiday season, it's just that, just to avoid adding more on a credit card and so forth, if you can just, balance out your funds and really have that extra spend, especially as you're going shopping, it is an added benefit. I really want to really focus a lot more on like the pros here, but I do know at like the Congress, payroll Congress event, there were a lot of hesitations from what I heard there with people wanting to use EWA. I think from an HR stance, of course, as we focus on like the human element of a company, people are worried that, their employees may not, spend well or may use it differently. And look, I mean, as we do that from time to time, regardless of EWA or not. But I did, I heard that that was kind of a concern. So I wanted to just, to briefly touch on what you've heard have been some risk concerns for companies. And then from there, let's really kind of hit it head on and really get into the added benefits.
Yeah. So concerns for the companies, right? The number one thing is the risk for a company right now these days is if you're not offering it, you're being left behind. Right. And that's one of the most important things. Like you are losing the better talent to other companies because they are offering it. And employees come first these days. HR departments, that's one of the most things. How can I how can I get my employees more engaged? How can I get them to show up? Right. So that's one of the most important things. You mentioned, payroll Congress and people worried about, compliance or it being allowed. We are very, very close with the government. We want to make sure that this is the right thing for employees. So we are always working closely. But we've had some bills that have been passed and we've been very very involved with helping get those bills passed.
Okay.
So, you also mentioned, and this is so true, I know HR people. They care about their people and they almost, I don't want to say control them, but they want to help them do better. And this is actually a tool that will do that for them. The idea of they're going to spend the money before payday. Guess what? They're spending it and daily pay has the numbers. They're spending it to stay ahead of the game and not fall behind the game anymore. So it really is the employees are trying to be more financial sound and more have a better understanding of their finances. The one thing about daily pay that really is important to understand is the employees not only have access to see what they're earning every day, they can have an idea of what their transfers are being used for. So they can see, and so can the employer, if they're using it to pay off a bill, if they're using it for gas, if they're using it for groceries, they have that pay balance, that visibility, and they can say, hey, I made $90. I'm taking home $90 from yesterday's shift. If I pick up that next shift, I can take home another 90. And guess what? I'm going to get that bill paid on time. So those are some of the things that we are seeing in the industry that's very important for employers to have a better understanding of. They're not going to the bar. They're not going shopping for the most extravagant things. They truly are paying off bills or using it for things that they need right now.
So it really is an added benefit. And really, really, I think employers need to look at it as you're trying to retain your specific talent. If an employee is going from one company to another company and they were using EWA at one company, but not utilizing it at another company, they may actually not want to go to that other company. And so Tara, mentions that as well on her side, that if you're not getting into the EWA process, you're really just missing out. It is what it is at this point. It's one of those things where we are in a very fast-paced environment right now, right? Everything is so instant when you're looking at social media, how we're getting news. I know we've talked about that in a couple of episodes previously, where sometimes it may not always be good to get, fast news, but we are consistently in that realm of world. And so the same thing now for people's pay. As you're trying to keep up with this generation that is bulldozing into the world, you got to just stay up on it. And they want something instant. So if you tell them, hey, look, from a recruiting stance, yes, here's our pay cycle, but guess what? If you come with us, you can get paid every day if you wanted to, right? I mean, that's a part of like the Ubers and lists of the world. I want to say they allow their people to pull funds every single day, if that's still the case from, my last research some time ago. So it is one of those things where it is going to be very important for companies to keep up with this and to make sure that you're still, putting forth effort for your employees. This is becoming more of an employee market more than anything.
Yeah. And when I think of what you were just talking about, there's a lyric from a John Lennon song, and it says that life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And so life happens, as you mentioned, issues with the car, refrigerator, the roof, etc. And it's hard to plan for these things. And charging everything in a credit card, that can lead to credit issues. And so then people, maybe they don't want to use their credit cards for those things, because then you maybe have interest fees and so forth. And you think, maybe if I just had $100 for my paycheck right now, I can solve this issue. And so I think that's an important point of view for the employee benefit. But I also think, and this is something we've talked about before, there are employer benefits too with regard to financial wellness. So if you can couple EWA as a benefit with a financial wellness program for your employees, there are multiple studies that we've looked at before that show that you're going to have a more productive employee because they're not stressed out about their personal life. They feel like, or my financial well-being, it's in order, I'm okay. And you end up with a more productive employee, less chance of a sick day, less chance of a day where someone says, going back to a car issue, I'm going to come in late. So there are both benefits, I think, from the employer and employee point of view.
Definitely agree. Tara had great example, right? As we talk about the employer side of things and how you can use EWA as an added benefit, even more than just allowing employees to take funds early. And so I think this is a good time. Let's cut back to Tara and let's get her insight and her full scope of example for that, because I think that would be really good for everyone to hear.
So I was talking to an HR manager of a senior living home. So senior home, right? Senior living home. And she told me that they added daily pay and they started seeing that some of the employees were taking $20-$30 every couple of days. And they were even doing, they weren't just doing the instant transfer, but they were also doing the next days so they could see. And they pulled them in and said, hey, I noticed, you kind of got a pattern here. Like, can I just ask what's going on? And the employee said, well, we're buying lunch. Like they all had the same thing. Like, we need money for lunch. Well, guess what? It's a senior living home. They make lunch there. What that client started implementing was a lunch program for the employees to sit with the residents. So not only are the employees saving money, they're getting to know the residents, and it's building an overall better company culture and environment for the residents.
Great. And look, as we talk about the human role, no pun intended again, have to throw that in there. But how cool is it to know that like even the employees who you see walk through, in and out the building and maybe helping you, actually being able to sit down and have a break, right, with, other coworkers and with other people in that area, in that living area, right? Builds a better connection. And it just, look, we're all human, right? It adds that human element to it. And that's just an extra added benefit of why this could be such a game changer for your company, right? Because, day to day, we come into work, we're all getting through the day the best we can. But little things like that, right? And there came a whole program, that they put together. And guess what? That leads into what we talked about last podcast is employee retention. So here you go. Daily pay already helping with employee retention. Right. And that this is actually, there are some people who will stay. That I know during the interview process when I've implemented this previously, that there are, you do put this in the recruiting way, right? To show that, yes, you get paid biweekly, they have their frequency, but you can get paid daily if you want, right? You can pull your money at any point in time and you're not held hostage by that. And that is definitely a game changer and an added benefit to even sell to bring someone on board, right? And there are certain people, I think through certain surveys that I've seen in the past that have went from one company that used daily pay to another company that used daily pay, and it was like a must for them. because it's just, you do get into a pickle when your paydays are a specific day. You will even see it now. I think there's some banks trying to deposit like a day early or so, right? I think sometimes
Mhm.
people are doing that. I would bet to say that daily pay had something to do with that, right? Daily pay was the foundation of that. So I could be biased, but I think so. So I think from our end, this is all like really good things. That's a really great example. Tara, thank you so much for sharing that.
We know sometimes there's a little bit, HR wants to be the helpers of the people, and payroll saying, now what are you going to make me change? And that's always a scary thing. The best thing with daily pay is there is no change to the payroll process. So it's all automated. They don't have to add a deduction in there. They don't have to worry about any of that. There's no, they don't have to worry about the back end with the money movement because daily pay funds that transfer and also any additional net pay. So, HR people who we're talking to, feel free to share this with your payroll people because guess what? They will love you for it when you tell them, hey, there's no extra work. And on top of that, we're going to have better retention. We actually see about 48% of daily pay users say they're more likely to stay with that employer because they're using it. And we also, 52% are also saying that they like their employers for offering this, right? They're actually going and they're saying, hey, we want this. So there's less work for everybody because you're going to have the employees. You're not onboarding as many, you're not having to put the information in, right? So it's almost, I hate to say the word no brainer, but one of the reasons I work for this company is I truly believe in the product. I truly believe we are helping people. And, this is something that really is, it's changing the way of pay. It truly is changing the way of pay.
So yeah, so that's always a game changer. I think with everything EWA and all the added benefits and what employees are looking for now when they are looking for jobs in this actual market. The more you can conform to how the world is working now, I think is going to be most important, right? And earned wage access is definitely it's already been on the rise, right? I feel like it's kind of very common for companies, now. I think there's enough companies out there that are doing this for, bigger, larger companies. Tara also hits on that on the companies that have best utilized their platform and that they have actually full statistics, right? Where it will show that companies companies that are using EWA, their employees are actually staying longer, and that is helping with retention. They actually have proof with certain surveys that they've sent out.
Yeah, and that's another employer money saver too, employee retention. Because thinking about training up a new employee, if you have a turnover, like you had said, if there's an employee and they're comfortable with their company where they're at, but they see another company with EWA and they're enjoying it, and they think, well, I would enjoy that benefit, and my company doesn't offer it. Or maybe you were saying earlier, maybe a particular company has an EWA offering, but maybe there's a charge associated with it, or isn't the percentage that they're looking for. So as you said, I think it's important for companies to listen to their employees and stay on top of their requests and needs. And then you're going to have that employee for a longer amount of time, and that's value added to your company. So I think that's always a good benefit.
Absolutely. And I think with that being said, if we're speaking to any of, I know from an employee stance, it's a no brainer, but if we're speaking to an actual payroll person or an actual HR person, especially a payroll person that probably has a million things on their plate, I have a soft heart because that was me at one point too. Especially when that, it's happening. Usually people are just like, okay, really another thing, right? What else do I have to do? I remember when I was first approached about this, that was my thing. Like, absolutely. I just was like, I was that annoying person that just kept asking question after question after question, like, okay, what is the catch here? What's happening? Are you sure? I remember trying to get through my executives and them thinking this was just like a loan and not wanting to deal with the loan. And then I had to do, more research and confirm that it's not a loan. Finally, we got approval to push it through. And I was really happy because it was right before the holiday season. And so, of course, everyone knows we're approaching holiday in Q4. And so the minute the email came out, there were many employees that immediately started using it, and one that came into my office and was like, "It really works." Like no one believed that it was going to be that instant, and so the minute they started using it, it was great. So we
Yeah.
want to make sure we want to make it clear, because from an HR stance, you are trying to protect your people. We don't want this to be utilized wrong by employees. We don't want them to use all their money so that when payday comes, they have no money. But so I just want to put it out there for employees. You want to use it wisely. Of course, you want to make sure that you're not just grabbing anything out of it, because essentially, like when you're getting paid on payday, whatever amount you have deducted from daily pay will come out of your check by daily pay, and you'll get the remaining net portion. But from a payroll stance, I will tell you there is typically minimal things that you have to do, especially from a daily pay platform. There may be some other platforms where there might have to be some benefit reports sent through. So that's why I'm saying just evaluate how it will work for your company and before you select. But I know from the daily pay, just from personal experience, there is typically nothing from your end that you would have to do at all. And so I think that that is, important to say to payroll people and to HR people. You can actually control how much of a percentage your employees can take. So you can actually set up in the system, if you don't want employees to be able to take 100% of their net pay, you can allow them to only take 50% or 20%, right? Like you can manage that on the back end so that employees are being responsible, or for the employees that may not be responsible, you're still protecting them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And then, and then separately from the payroll world, it is not going to be a heavy burden for you, and it is going to be an added benefit. And for people who get stuck in a pickle, and it's just unfortunate when life hits and you blow a tire, or your AC goes out, or something happens, or at the end of the year your heater goes out and it's cold outside. And you don't want to utilize your credit card, or you just don't want to get stuck in something like that. This would be, really good for your company to have, so that you can, pull your funds early and just make sure you're maintaining from there.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a great point regarding the ability they have to step in and have limits, because what we were saying before, with you have this financial wellness that you can add as a benefit if you want, or have these thresholds. You're going to kind of keep your employees in check a little bit and let them know that this is a great benefit, and if you use it responsibly, it can really help out. And something else that we talked about some time ago was who is actually using this EWA. And it's not simply, it's not hourly workers necessarily, or salary workers at the administrative level. It's some executives who are using it too, for lots of different reasons. So it's very specific to the individual. And I think that makes it kind of personal. And maybe that's why it's quite popular too, because people feel like, well, these are my finances, and I feel like I understand best how I can utilize them. And if I think I need them at this point in time, after a week or two, a week or two, a day or two into a pay cycle, then, have that trust to let them use those finances and keep that financial wellness healthy and keep them happy. So there are employer and employee benefits, as we have said a couple times here, to look at. And when you mentioned the payroll professionals, some of the feedback I got that was on the cautionary side was, as you mentioned, with the process, and then you see how the process works and say, well, this isn't that big of a lift. But also some other payroll professionals were looking at that Treasury Department proposal and talking about constructive receipt, where they're saying the Treasury proposal, which is not law, but it's a proposal, advising like using a 1-week pay period for employers who are going to use EWA. And I think most pay periods are biweekly, semi-monthly. Weekly and monthly are less frequent. And so I wonder if certain payroll professionals might think, well, if we have to shift from biweekly to weekly, this could be or present a whole new set of challenges.
To touch on your point on employees who utilize it, you're correct. It is all chains, right? All chains of commands. And I have absolutely seen that in past roles for past companies. It is not just your employees that are, lower end on the scale. It is also top end managers, directors, C-suite, executives. I mean, look, we are all one of the same. So regardless of a title, regardless of experience, regardless of education, at the end of the day, it is essentially all subjective, right? The more money you make, essentially, naturally, for the most part, not everyone, but for the most part, you are going to spend, based on your means. And so everyone has those situations come up, and so it is everyone. I've seen, everyone take the funds, and everyone have, different reasons why. And so this is why I really think it is really important, because it covers, there is no, I guess, no discrimination. It covers everybody, full circle. And then to get into the, weekly payroll mention. So I know we did some research around laws, and look, their laws are coming. That happens with everything, right? So we know that there are the federal, portion is still evaluating, I assume, but the state level, depending on certain states, they are really getting down to the nitty gritty. I actually have been surprised to see some states are requiring like licensing and so forth. So unfortunately, that may cause more of a headache for a company. I don't believe it's really down to a pay level just yet, but it could, it could become more of a burden for companies if you're offering it. But that is to be expected with everything. I would say to really reevaluate the pros and cons, right? Go back and look at our employee retention episode, because the cost of losing multiple employees all because of not having EWA versus hey, just got to get a little license and then just make sure you're sending a report once a year or once a quarter. I would say probably best to go the license route versus having, a bulk of your population drop. That's just me. But maybe evaluate that as a whole, right? So that you're not completely disregarding EWA, without weighing out the pros and cons. And, with our roles in HR and payroll, it really is important that we are focused in speaking up for the employee level, right? And so we all know that, the upper level executives aren't always, as they're getting in pushing business, sometimes they're not always seeing, right, your employees. And so it is our responsibility in some way to just make sure that they do have a voice. And I think, something as small as EWA is important. It really is no cost to the company. Like from the daily pay side, it costs the company nothing. So to have such a big benefit, for your employees to feel like, okay, they don't have to stress or worry because they can open an app and pull some money for gas or pull some money for lunch, pull some money for, a bill, is really, 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 really important, I think, to stay focused on.
Yeah, and I think to your point about employee satisfaction with the company, you can always, as an employer, put out a survey and just see if you're curious and wondering, can I remove this benefit, or is this really going to affect employee retention? I know lots of companies do annual surveys just to get kind of take the temperature of what their employees are thinking about. Maybe throw that on a survey if EWA is one of your offerings, just to make sure you're listening to them and getting their feedback. And to kind of pivot to another point, which is something popular and trending in multiple industries, and something we touched on in a previous episode, would be artificial intelligence, AI, and earned wage access. And I don't have an answer for this, but it's something I was thinking about: is what is the potential for this next generation AI and EWA for maybe some of the pain points that are out there? Maybe there's some of the legal pain points, the legislative pain points, the pain points when it comes to payroll professionals, maybe skeptical of the benefit. And I'm wondering if you've heard anything. I haven't at the moment, but it's just something that popped into my head on AI and what could transpire in the future.
I have not heard anything, but AI is just, I hate to say this out loud, but it is just taking over a little bit. So,
Yeah.
so I'm sure there's something already in the works. Someone out there is thinking about it, starting to put it in place. But I would say that I feel like the laws kind of have to be in place. Well, no, not necessarily, because there's not really laws for AI just yet either. Um,
True. We're getting there though.
but yeah, but we're all figuring it out. But I think at some point it definitely can help release some of the burden. So as we previously talked about, it's gonna, AI can hopefully take away some of like the mundane tasks that we kind of have to deal with day to day, the manual processes. So if it does come down to a matter of okay, you got to get a license, but there's a quarterly report or a biweekly report or yearly annual report. Hopefully it just is like an annual report for right now. Maybe that is something that can already be pre-built. If you're at a large HCM platform, guaranteed whenever those laws come out, they're probably already going to pre-build that in their reporting section. And then from there, maybe there could be feeds that get connected to the states. Maybe that could be something that is included with the state quarterly filings. Maybe that goes through each quarter, right? I feel like
Yeah.
that could be also a game changer too, which would be very helpful. And then you're not burdening your employees at all. This information is already in the system. So it does kind of make sense to kind of include that in there. Maybe when you're registering for a state ID number, having a box checked off, like, are you utilizing EWA? That way it can automatically apply for the licensing portion.
Yeah.
That does happen already in some states when you're applying for that now, depending on the states, especially when workers' comp is involved, for some states, not for all. So if we can get, states up to speed here and, not the states that we know are already there, like the Californians and New York, but there are some slower ones that might can use a push. So maybe that will kind of help towards it. But I've not heard anything about AI just yet, but I feel like most systems have already been testing and utilizing AI on the back end already. So if it's already not pre-configured in some way, they could be just not talking about it. But I'm sure at some point it will kind of move its way in.
Yeah, and I wonder if some of the EWA providers are looking into AI solutions, next generation AI solutions for their offerings to companies, which could have a trickle down effect and make employees feel more comfortable or more interested, and also maybe engage more with payroll professionals with any of their skepticism toward using it. I think that could be something interesting down the road, and I'll be interested in seeing the next like payroll conference that we might attend, if that is indeed something that some of these providers of EWA are talking about or have solutions or are thinking about it.
Absolutely. Well, I think this might be good because I did, during my call with Tara, we did kind of touch on like what's next, at least on their side. So
Yeah.
we can get some good insight, at least from their end. So let's go ahead and cut back to her and then we'll, close out from there. So you had a great, testimonial and client success story that I think is really just really, game changer here. But before we really close out, I wanted to know if you happen to have any added insight on some of like the evolving technologies surrounding EWA. Do you know of anything that could be like what's next, what's coming down, the pipeline, anything additional for the EWA world and daily pay?
Yeah, for daily pay specifically, I mean, we are constantly working with new partners. We're bringing on new HCM companies. We're bringing on new consultants. We're bringing on, new white labels such as ADP's Wisely platform. So we're embedded right in there. We work closely with a number of banks, fintechs, financial service providers. We've got a partnership with PNC Bank. We're working closely with TD Bank and Santander and more of those. So we're constantly evolving, our products. We've got the pay, we've got the save. We have a rewards product, which allows for the client, the employer to actually, pass out cash rewards, not gift cards, but actual rewards that they have access to. And we're working very closely on a tip product. So, we've got some great things coming down the line. I'm very excited. Right now we work with clients that are 400 employees and over. That's another thing that may become a new investment for us, is trying to go into that lower space. But I mean, I will tell you right now, the industries that we are working with, whether it's home health care, retail, we're working with hospitality, we're working very closely with a lot of, the quick service restaurants. So, the McDonald's. One of the exciting things that keeps happening to us is we're seeing more and more that when CEOs are talking on their earning calls, they're actually bringing up daily pay is helping them. So, companies, Dollar Tree, Aramark, Jack in the Box, Big Lots, like they're talking about daily pay on these earning calls. Hilton was named one of the second best places in the world to work. They noted it's because they're offering daily pay. So, it's just, again, as I said, if you're not offering it, you're behind. And we really want to make sure that companies get ahead of the game and aren't falling behind.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, great to hear. I will say, I mean, I've had employees in the past rant and rave about it, so I can only imagine those larger companies when you're into the, tens of thousands of employees, right? That is just really needed, especially when you're covering all aspects of the world and all different titles and job titles. And so that's great. Thank you, Tara. And look, I want to end here because Tara has one of my favorite slogans ever.
So here's the deal, Tiana. Don't forget that every day is a payday at Daily Pay.
All right, and there you have it, folks. Tara said it. That's her slogan. Every day's payday with daily pay. That's my favorite slogan right now, just because how cool is it to think we can all now be paid every day? That's an added trend. So we definitely appreciate all of her insight. We, of course, appreciate you guys listening in again and all your support. So if you have any other questions in regards to EWA, we did provide Tara's email address. That way you can reach out to her, directly. Or if you have any other questions for us, I mean, feel free to send us a message on the Human Roles LinkedIn page. You can send us individually, me or Chris individually messages, or on our YouTube page, feel free to comment and we'd be happy to chime in from there.
Absolutely. And we're very excited for our next episode, although some payroll professionals find this a little bit of a cringe time of year, but it's coming up anyway, whether we like it or not, and that would be year end. And every year end is interesting, and there are some similar things, there are some different things, but it's always a challenge. And so we're hoping to get some great insights for you coming up for the 2023-2024 year end process next month.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Yeah, excited about that. Although it's always like everyone's like, oh, the holiday time, that should be relaxing, not the payroll. And look, hopefully all of you don't have pay weeks that land on both Thanksgiving and Christmas. But we'll get into that more next month. So really appreciate you all listening in again. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next month.
Next month on the Human Roll as it continues to roll.